we always have 32 5-stars, right? But we do that because there's 32 first-round picks in the NFL. It's kind of a standardization measure. We could argue back and forth if that's the right way to do things. That's how we did it before I got to the company, and obviously that's just kind of the way it is. But not every year is created equal. Where were some of the cutoff points for you in this process? Like, did you get to 18 and say, okay, these guys are no doubt 5-stars, like there's no question about it, and then the next 20 are potentially 5-stars? We like, where was sort of like the no doubt range, and then I could see how this guy could be a 5-star. I could argue against it for you.
Yeah, I think y- self-consciously, I'm very aware of the fact that I think I take a tremendous amount of pride in the evaluation process, and um, I'm very thorough in that aspect. And what I mean by that is, I think there's a higher level and a higher degree of being able to really check all those boxes. For me personally, I think you look at 1 through 10 in this class, and it's a combination of checking boxes. And what I mean by that is not only having the prototypical weight for their position, and checking the boxes in terms of height, weight, speed, verified measurables, multi-sport data, track and field data. But these were guys to go along with exceptional physical traits at each of their positions, had the production to back it up. So I think 1 through 10, when you start looking at those guys, you get a really good feel for what we like to call clean players. And certainly guys that you're going to feel really good about projecting at the next level, and not only having success, but immediate success at the next level. I think 11, really through about 21, 22 is a fluctuating range of players that have the ability um, to be a top 10 level talent, but there's something in their game that is restricting them to that point. And really, my favorite range is probably 22 through 32. And I think that's projecting a lot of the players that, for whatever reason, have flashed those capabilities of being a high level caliber player at the next level, but haven't done it consistently. And I think it's trying to dig a little bit deeper, find out the why, figure out why they haven't had consistent success, and then look at their situation and see, hey, is that something at the next level where you think that's a good fit? And is that going to be a place where they can go and have success? So, as you said, it all comes back to Sunday with the top 32. And I think that's important. As you can see, I think 1 through 100 and 247, all those guys that we have ranked, our philosophy, we want it to be consistent throughout. And the NFL is a height, weight, speed game. That's how we wanted to make our rankings, and we wanted to shape it towards that. So, um, that's a big part. I'm really proud of the job that we've done, and super excited for tomorrow.
One question we got here, and my thought is, like, if the people who are so dedicated to this are asking us questions like this, we should probably go ahead and clarify for them. And Robert asks, do the 5-stars get broken up regionally, like 5 from Cali, Texas, and Florida, or is it just the best players?
Yeah, simply put, it's the best players. I do think it's interesting to go back. I think you try to keep the most objective wins as possible. Look at the top 32, how you got there, go back over that process, vet it, ask questions. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of people involved, and not just us and Gabe, Chris, and myself, but Steve and the regional team and yourself, Bud. So there's a lot of information flying around. So I think there's a lot of checks and balances. But for us, at the end of the day, our job is to put the best 32 players and really stamp them as 5-stars, and then not only get them in the right neighborhood, but get them aligned 1 through 32.
I will say I thought this year, because we've staffed up, right? We have you, we have Chris, we have Gabe, obviously, very dedicated to watching the film. But this year, the evaluation process was, I think, easier than it's been. Like last year, we had so many camps and combines canceled, so you were sort of, to make like a pilot reference, you're kind of just flying by. You didn't really have all those measurables, right? And that is so important. We see these teams staffing up data wise, and bringing on more and more database guys, and guys who can run the numbers and find the trends of different combinations of athleticism and size and birth date and hand size and neck size, hat size, you name it, that trends to a future NFL player. Um, this year, getting that data back, actually having real camps over the summer, I think was beneficial. It's beneficial to eyeball guys in person. Like, you can watch them on a highlight tape. You can find their huddle and go look at them in game, right? And we were talking about a guy in the group chat the other day who I remember Ivans, I think it was, who watched him a couple cycles ago. It was like, this is the laziest, worst looking non-highlight clips I've ever seen. And the guy's already in the transfer portal and had to transfer down a level. Like, he went to a G5 school. But seeing guys in person, I think like the 3D thing that you see, right? Like, how is this guy's body actually built is very helpful.
Certainly. I mean, I think, you think about the experience, and it was new for me because of NCAA rules outside of prospects being able to come to campus and work out for you over the summer. You didn't really get to see these guys a lot other than their unofficial and official visits. And then even then you're not seeing them move around. So to be able to go down to San Antonio, get their height, get their weight, get their hand size and their arm length and so on and so forth, and then seeing just the way that they interact. I think that's a subconscious part of the evaluation
Yes.
process, not only with yourself as an individual, but how they interact with their teammates. How do they transition from drill to drill in their practices? Where is it that you see them go? Yeah, maybe they're asleep during individual, but on one-on-ones, you see they tap into something different in terms of a competitive nature. So it's all those type of things that those are really kind of they're all supplemental data points, right? Your baseline is the tape. You're always going to refer back to the tape, and then everything in terms of physical traits, testing measurements, so on and so forth, live exposure, um, is all part of this big piece of the puzzle that you're trying to figure out with these players. So it's an intriguing aspect, and I think like the frame of reference that you have to keep is it's not a science. It's more of an art form. Like I wrote that in the article. Like, this is something you got to go back, and it takes a lot of time to go back and understand through years and years of the evaluation process. Why did I miss? And it's more important to understand why you had success at certain aspects as well. So I think the reevaluation process, re-examining maybe some of the reasons or details you thought you might have missed, or some of the details that you correctly valued in the process are really important. And listen, there's a lot of guys in the top 32. All of them are there for a reason. Not all of them are going to hit. That's just the nature of the beast for one reason or the other. We all think they have 5-star caliber potential in terms of their athleticism and where they project. But not all of those guys are going to be successful. And a lot of them are going to have stories, like you said, but of maybe not being able to hack it at the P5 level and have to transfer somewhere else. So that's just part of the process. I think for us, it's going back, looking back, and being studious and asking the right questions, why we try to refine our process and make it the best possible.
For sure. And really, I mean, the thing is, you don't want to just totally flip your process over. I know I kind of have a matrix that I've sent to you as far as historically first round types that the rankings have missed on. I mean, can we put these guys into certain buckets that are identifiable at the time, like not second guessing hindsight buckets, but hey, like if the guy checks these couple boxes here, we really need to re-examine what we have on him because there may be some hidden upside. Or, I mean, there's certain buckets, like I'll go ahead and share one because it's not going to be an industry secret. If you gain more than 25% of your draft body weight post high school and you keep your same speed, meaning you don't have to change positions, guess what? We probably are going to miss on you because that means that's not projectable. Strength coaches would love to tell you it is, but for every one that they're actually able to put, going from 200 to 250, there's 5 or 6 guys who they're going to call hard gainers who are not able to put on that kind of weight and keep that level of speed. But routinely, that's a type of player that we miss on because we would probably be fired or should be fired if we were routinely projecting guys to gain 25% or more of their draft weight post high school. Right, a normal amount
Right.
is more in that kind of 10 to 15% range. We get the outliers when they add an extra 10% on, but keep their speed or agility.
Right. And I think inversely too on the overset size of it too, with offense and defensive linemen. And I think that really truly depends on the programs and the structure that they're going to be provided at the next level. And we have a couple cases of that throughout the class in the top 247. And there's different philosophies on that in terms of different levels of conviction that each of us have as individuals, whether or not those people can and those players can be successful at the next level, depending on whether weight dependent, right? And there's a really couple good examples throughout the top 247. You'll see guys where it's like it's a big question mark. Hey, can this guy put on 15 to 20 pounds at the next level, and is he going to be able to anchor, or is this guy going to be able to shed
Right.
30, 40 pounds and be able to maintain his weight and his athleticism, and weight's not going to be an issue for him. So,
That's a huge
and I
unknown,
think the
Coop. Like,
yeah, and I think the
how
one
much
thing
faster
is
will
is
you
what you
get
have
if you
to
drop the
do.
weight?
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess I'm talking more in the line of scrimmage, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like
And
if so, Evan Neal, right? I have a
right,
photo of Evan Neal weighing in at 374 from the Nike opening in Miami uh, before his senior year. He couldn't play at 374, right? I mean, like not at the college level, but how do you project how much more athletic a big guy is going to get if he drops down to the range we think he should be? Some of these guys are going to unlock athleticism, and some might not, right? Like
right.
it's tough to do.
I mean, I think there's flashes of that. You look at Evan Neal, and I think it's a combination of the scheme as well. You look at Alabama and what they're doing. I mean, the ball is out so quickly out of
Yeah.
Bryce Young's hand as well. So like when I looked at Evan Neal coming out of high school in IMG, I thought, wow, here is going to be what you're looking for at the right tackle position. I did not think he was going to anchor Alabama's offensive line for the next 3 to 4 years at the left tackle position. But a lot of that, we look at some of these guys, Keontae Goodwin, Tegra Shabola, Elijah Pritchard. And the one thing that I think you have to consider and take into this too is the width of the player.
Sure.
And especially a Goodwin and Shabola, you look at both of those guys and their athletic traits. Yeah, maybe they're not exceptional athletes, but they're good athletes who understand how to use their body type and their leverage and their length to their advantage in a pass set. And that's what I think is really important. And the other thing too is, so much of this, especially on the weight projection, comes down to what's between the ears and what's in the heart. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and whether these guys are going to be able to follow a consistent regimen over the next 3 to 4 to 5 years to do what they need to do to maintain their ability to stay on the field. And that is not a easy thing to do if you ask athletes, whether it's putting on weight or keeping weight off. So that has a lot. That has a lot to do with it as well.
That's also where getting the prospect on campus, right? Seeing what his background is like. I mean, socioeconomic factors at home are an important part of an evaluation, right? Or does he come from a household that maybe can't afford like quality food? Is he living on junk food from from the convenience store? And how will his body shape transform? Or like, is he in a household where he should probably have the resources to make better food choices and is not making those? Is that something that is more ingrained, is going to be more difficult for you to deal with as a staff? And we talk about kids on the opposite end of that spectrum, some very, some of the poorest areas in the country, down in the Glades, down here in Florida. And I've had coaches tell me, oh, we can put 40 pounds on that kid. And that's a bit of hyperbole, but not always. And they are trying to use that knowledge that they gain from having a kid on campus on a junior day and coming back up for the spring game. And you're not just looking at the kid, you're talking to the parents and you're saying, okay, like what do you do for work? You're trying to get a feel for the family background. Like that is absolutely a factor. We don't really talk about that a whole lot, but I guarantee you these coaches are looking at that.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the process. It's a huge part of the process that is more invested in at the next level with, you would think, $1 billion entity in the NFL than it is the collegiate level. And I think when you start talking about probably the former model of college football, not in today's age with the transfer portal, where there's um, a number of reasons why players tend to transfer nowadays, but um, I mean, you start to think about it, and it's I don't know, it's fascinating, um, I'm sorry, bud. I lost my train of thought on what I was even talking about. But
Well, we're talking about
um,
the family backgrounds and the the old model of college football versus the new.
yeah, I'm sorry. So the wiring aspect of it is really what it comes down to. So wiring, academics, character, all these type of things. What is their competitive nature? The stuff that we talked about when seeing these guys in San Antonio, and it's all the little things that measure up after multiple exposure points in the process from the time they were a sophomore to the time they were a senior to the time they're getting ready to enroll in your university. I think that's really important, and it's a collection of data points. But I do think that is where you're going to find the biggest indicator of whether or not truly a player is going to be successful at the next level, is putting those pieces to the puzzle together and saying, okay, does this player come from a structure to where it's important to have your house in order? And how's that going to translate once he's incorporated into our culture? I think that's $1 million question. And I think the misses in our industry in the evaluation process, that's where they come from. That's the genesis of it. It's not because a guy wasn't big enough, fast enough, strong enough. It was because they didn't have the want to, or there was something else externally that was affecting them, prohibiting them from being successful.
And that again, the thing you talked about that is really pretty crucial. And you mentioned the word culture, right, Coop? And you are going to take some guys who you're questionable on whether they can work, but you can't take too many of them. You have to hope that the balance of your culture is good enough to where, like Clemson calls them knuckleheads, right? Can we only want to take a couple, but we're willing to take a chance on a couple because of special ability, and we think we can get them to sort of assimilate to our culture that we've established here, to do the right things and largely stay out of trouble and work at the level that you need to do in order to be a championship ball club. No, that you're exactly right. I didn't. By the way, the comments, I didn't realize that Giannis put on 50 pounds of muscle uh, from the time he was in
I
high
mean,
school.
he's different, but
Yeah,
that's a great
that's
example. I mean,
yeah.
coming from Greece, in terms of what he was afforded and the resources that he has to be able to invest in his body in the NBA, just not even comparable from where he was to where he is now.